6 days after the news came out on Ric Flair legitimately collapsing at the end of the Thunder tapings last Tuesday, Vince Russo, playing off that while in the middle of a program with Flair, turned it into part of the angle, saying that he told Flair to get out of the business into a retirement home, as he knew it was only a matter of time before he broke down, announcing on the company website that he will strip Flair off the WCW title at the top of Nitro and hold a funeral for his career, with Flair in the meantime while off the show tonight due to him being unable to fly with a neck brace after a treatment to fix his ear equilibrium balance issues which caused the problem, receiving medical clearance to return next Monday to continue the current highest drawing program in the company against Russo and David Flair in the build to the first Rick vs. David match, as like Nitro overall after starting an hour earlier tonight at 7 p.m. due to the NBA playoffs on TNT. Unable to build on the strong momentum coming out of the last week, with the Flair-Russo-David segments drawing the highest numbers in months to lead to the show overall being the most watched Nitro of the Russo-Bischoff regime to date, with Flair, who many in the company suspected collapsed as part of the storyline after a talked about heart attack angle in a feud with Bischoff in December '98. Saying that he felt similar symptoms 8 years ago in a match against Ultimate Warrior in the WWF, which caused him to fall twice mid-match and forced him to take 5 weeks off. Nitro saw its first hour taking a major hit due to the time slot change, but gaining viewers throughout, climbing from a 1.3 to a 1.7 rating at 7:45 p.m., with the reason for the change being TNT having Game 2 of a Lakers vs. Portland Western Conference Finals series starting at 9 p.m., drawing a 4.3 rating for the duration of the game, which was almost doubled by Raw head-to-head. Closing the first hour with a Terry Funk announcement teasing retirement before revealing that he signed a 1-year contract extension, followed by a Mike Awesome vs. Wall Ambulance match just before 8 p.m. WCW crossed over to its original Nitro start time at 8 p.m. with the hyped Russo funeral to Flair, arriving to the building with the belt and mocking Flair throughout the first hour, saying that they're here to celebrate the end of Flair's career, while again airing the footage of Flair falling on Thunder as part of the angle, saying that anyone who supports Flair is responsible for what happened, as he tried to warn them, handing the belt back to Jeff Jarrett before going to the casket to mock Flair with the Rolex he took from him just as Nash came out of it to lay out David and Jarrett and set up the main event Nash vs. Jarrett title match, as the 8 p.m. quarter, which also included a Scott Steiner promo coming out to a big reaction in front of an hometown crowd in Michigan, saw a massive spike of over 1.4 million viewers to a 2.9 rating, which under the normal time slot would make it the highest rated opener in a month. Nitro entered the 3 rating range, with Scott challenging Rick and Tank Abbott to a new Asylum cage match, bringing out Rick, with them going 4 minutes before Abbott again made his Goldberg entrance to interfere with Bill Goldberg, now rumored to make his TV return at the first Nitro in June, coming from his hometown in Atlanta, along with Nash cutting a promo on Russo and Jarrett to hype the main event for the belt. With Rick off the show and expected to return next week, his 2 sons kept the feud rolling, with Reed Flair calling out David to the ring, telling him to come back to the family before David turned on him to set up Reed, taking him down, playing off his legit amateur wrestling background in a similar angle to the one against Bischoff 2 years back in the build to the Flair vs. Bischoff Starrcade match, ending up with David putting him in the figure 4. With the second half of the quarter featuring an almost impromptu Hulk Hogan vs. Vampiro match, with Hogan in the last few weeks perhaps for the first time since becoming a headliner in the industry over 20 years ago worked on advertised TV matches with almost no hype or promotion in a completely different role than he usually had where the entire show was built on and towards his segments and matches, going 5 minutes with Vampiro going over after Kidman's interference to bring out Sting for the save, with the quarter jumping another 600,000 viewers to a 3.4 rating just before the main event. Nash and Jarrett went 5 minutes with Russo coming out unannounced to be the special referee, refusing to count the falls with Nash having the match won several times before Steiner ran in going after Russo, ending up with Russo macing Nash and Steiner with Jarrett going over to take back the title, with Bischoff coming out to close the show promising the end of the careers of Hogan and Flair at the Great American Bash pay-per-view while continuing to hype a major surprise one phone call away, as Nitro, which gained viewers in every quarter of the show, peaked for the main event with a 3.6 rating in hopes of gaining back the momentum of last week next Monday. 24 hours after a 1-hour Ironman match at Judgment Day which also featured the return of Undertaker after over 8 months, Vince opened Raw for the follow-up promo after the finish of the match saw Michaels disqualifying Rock due to Taker's interference just as the clock ran out to make it 6-5 to Hunter, with Vince bragging about last night's results which included Shane going over Big Show and DX over the Dudleys, saying that last night was Rock's Judgment Day, warning Undertaker that he will be arrested if he shows up tonight after walking out on his contract last September, while telling the crowd that Rock might not show up tonight in Indianapolis, but if he does he's booking him against all members of DX and Shane in a 4-on-1 handicap match, as moments later Rock was walking behind McMahon on the way to his limousine, taking him out and sending him away as the first target for the night to start one of the memorable show-long angles in history, with Rock targeting the entire faction throughout the show, with Raw starting unopposed from the start. Opened with a 6.3 first quarter rating, the highest since the night after WrestleMania 16. With the WWF continuing its biggest ever boom period, as besides dominating on television and selling out major arenas in minutes, along with the last 2 pay-per-views in WrestleMania and Backlash combined drawing huge numbers of over 1.6 million domestic buys to make headlines in the entertainment licensing and cable worlds, the company was featured during the week in a cover story on Business Week publication as one of the top 3 hottest growing companies in America, noting its unprecedented boom over the past 2 years, with the company on track to shatter every revenue record in history for the current year. After the first quarter Raw, which featured 3 matches of the Hardys vs Testa and Albert, Eddie Guerrero vs D'Lo Brown, and a 6-man tag of Too Cool vs Kurt Angle, Edge and Christian, along with Rock taking out Road Dogg and X-Pac when arriving to the building, saw Raw jumping over 1 million viewers to a 7 rating, entering the 7 rating and over 8 million viewers range and staying there for the rest of the night. Raw jumped to a first-hour high at 9:45 p.m. with Shane ignoring Brisco's warning and going to the ring bragging about his victory on Big Show last night before the building erupted, with Rock coming out to make his first appearance in front of the crowd, taking out Shane with them brawling outside the building, bumping Raw to a 7.2 rating in a quarter, which also featured the first half of a Chris Benoit vs Val Venis IC title match going 7 minutes. Raw, which came in front of another routine 14,000 sellout crowd at the Conseco Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, crossed over the top of the hour with the Benoit vs Venis match ending with Hardcore Holly coming to the ring to lay out both with chair shots to the head, bringing out Chris Jericho from behind to get him back with the second half of the quarter, seeing a Dudleys vs. Bossman and Buchanan tag match going 5 minutes, while in the middle Brisco was trying to contact Triple H on the phone with Pat Patterson off the show on vacation in Montreal. After a Bradshaw vs. Crash Holly hardcore match, Triple H was the last one to arrive to the building over 90 minutes into Raw, with Brisco giving him the details on Rock taking out the rest of the faction, with Hunter saying that he's going to find Rock first to set up the main event confrontation, followed by a hyped Shawn Michaels interview immediately following the pay-per-view main event last night on his decision to DQ Rock after the final bell, with the idea that he cost him the title for the second time, responding that he did the best job he possibly could and he's tired of people blaming him for something every time he's around, despite him being in the company longer than anybody, continuing to plant the seeds for a potential Rock vs. Michaels match, despite Rock publicly saying in interviews just a few months back that he has no interest in working with Shawn, with the quarter picking up over 500,000 viewers to a 7.1 rating just before the main event. After taking out almost the entire faction, Rock finally came out for the response promo on last night's finish, with 15 minutes to go in the broadcast, telling Triple H that they made history last night in an all-time great match, but he never beat him despite the help of the McMahons and DX, and walking out with the belt, guaranteeing to soon win back the title, before turning to Undertaker saying that he did the right thing but at the wrong time, which cost him the match, calling out Triple H to the ring, saying that after eliminating the rest it's now 1-on-1 instead of 4, bringing out Hunter putting over the Ironman match, saying that the two top guys in the business went an hour and lit the industry on fire, but he was the one standing tonight with the title, as Rock ended the talking, challenging him to bring it to start the brawl, with the entire faction returning, setting up Undertaker arriving moments later to another huge reaction, making his TV return for the first time since September '99, as Rock and Taker took out the faction, with Rock laying out Hunter to close one of the hottest angles in Raw history, with the final quarter, which started at a 7.1 rating, then jumped over 1.8 million viewers to a huge 8.6 rating, peaking with over 10.5 million viewers, which put the final segment and Raw overall at near record levels, with the segment ending up the fourth most watched in Raw history, while the show overall with a 7.1 rating and over 8.7 million viewers for the entire 2 hours, ending up the fourth most watched episode of all time.